Hi, third period. Turn to lesson 2.2a on page 52. So, positive or negative slopes. Go ahead and answer 1, 2, 3, 4 of these. It should take you, I don't know, 10 seconds to do that. Press pause if you need to, but you should be writing an answer here, 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 and here very quickly. Negative. I almost wrote positive. Positive. Really positive. Super steep. And hardly at all downhill, but still negative. So you remember downhill, uphill, and of course if it's horizontal, it's a zero slope, and if it's vertical, it is a what slope? And you just said undefined, I hope. How do you know whether it's a positive or negative slope? Uphill, left to right is positive. And of course the opposite is true. Downhill from left to right is negative. Okay, so what we're learning today is we're going to be drawing a right triangle, and a right triangle is one that has a 90-degree angle in it, so underline that word. A right triangle is something that looks like this, has a 90-degree angle in it somewhere. Or it could be even upside down too, so you could do this and have a 90-degree angle there. So those are right triangles. Okay, so what you're doing, guys, is you're going to try to find a right triangle here, and maybe you see that if you don't have a ruler, now would be the time to press pause and hand that out, since I forgot to mention that. Okay, now that you all have a ruler, you can actually see that I could draw a right triangle here, I could draw it here, I could draw it from here to here, I could draw it from here to here. There are many different right triangles in this first problem, problem A. So I'm just going to choose this dot to that dot. So I made that little right triangle, and it's saying what is the rise and run of this right triangle. What it means is if I start at this dot, and I want to get to this dot, but I can only walk along the legs of this triangle, how do I get there? Well, if I go this direction, I'm going down 1, 2 spaces. So I'm going down 2, that's a negative number because it's going downhill. Then I'm going to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's a positive number because it's going to the right. So my rise over my run would be negative 2 over positive 5. Now I want to show you something else. What if I would have just said, instead of this triangle, since this line is the same triangle no matter what, if I was to actually use this right triangle right here, how do I get from here to here? Well, wouldn't I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, up 4? But now I'm going to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If I go to the left 10, guess what that becomes is a negative. Well, if I use this triangle, what would be my rise? Would be 4, and my run would be left 10, which is negative 10. Well, do you notice anything about these two fractions? This one is just the simplified version of this one. So the slope is still negative 2/5. That's what we're actually doing, is finding the slope from graphs. So you guys go ahead and try B the same way that we just did A. Press pause for a moment. Well, it doesn't matter where you draw your triangle. This one is still rising 2 and running 5, even if you did the 4 and 10. The only difference between these two slopes is that this one is negative and this one is positive, but they have the same ratio, just a negative versus a positive. Okay, let's take a look at number 4 here. This one's kind of tricky. You actually already know the answer is undefined, but let's prove why that's undefined. So if you were trying to draw a triangle between here and here, you couldn't really do it. It's just a straight up and down line. So tell me what you would do to get from this dot to this dot. You would just rise 1, 2, 3. So if I rise 3, now I'm sitting right on top of that dot. How much do I run to get from, well, do I run at all? Well, I run 0, don't I? And guess what happens if I type 3 divided by 0 into a calculator? We've actually talked about this many times. If I put 3 divided by 0 in a calculator, guess what it says? It says error. So whenever there's a run of 0, it's a vertical line and it's going to have an undefined slope. Let's go ahead and do this one. I'm going to do the smallest triangle I can see right here and right here. So the trick to this is just to count carefully. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit for you. Sorry if it gets blurry. So if I want to start at this dot and walk along the grid, 1, 2, 3, 4. I went down 4 units, -4. Remember, this is a negatively sloped line. Now I'm sitting here and I go to the right, 1, 2, 3. So I go, my rise is -4, my run is +3. Now I know you guys want to change that into a mixed number, but since we're dealing with a rise over a run as a ratio, as a fraction, just leave it as an improper fraction. So the next page has you drawing right triangles and calculating rise and run for all of these graphs. So just do yourself a favor though, before you do anything else, just notice which ones are going downhill and which ones are going uphill. So you know that your answers for these should either be negative or positive. Negative, positive, negative, and by the way, you should know the slope of this one is 0. So draw some right triangles and calculate your rise over your run for each one of these. Press pause. Do all 6 of these, work together while the teacher walks around and kind of helps you with this for a few moments. And then you're going to go ahead and play the rest of the video to check your answers to make sure they are correct. Okay, hopefully you're all done. Now you may notice that your triangles and my triangles are different, but ultimately the answers are all going to be the same if you did it correctly. So I just drew down 12, which is negative, and to the right 4, which is positive. And you know that a negative divided by a positive is a negative. 12 over 4 is 3, and it's negative. So the correct simplified answer is just -3. Letter D, I happen to go up 8 and right 2. I rise 8, I run 2, and 8 over 2 just simplifies to 4. For letter E, I just pick the 2 closest point and I go down 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what I wrote here, and run 1, and they have the same thing here. Your slope is -4 for E. For letter F, I'm going to actually, the answer is 3 over 4, but I want to show you why I did this one in a certain direction. If I start at this point and work all the way to this point, don't I go down 12, and that's a -12, and now I go to the left 16. Well, clearly we know this is a positively sloped line, but the reason that it is that is because if I rise -12 and run -16, isn't a negative divided by a negative really equal to a positive? And of course you know it is. Last 2. Let's see, my rise, I go down 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. -4 is my rise. My run is +8. When I simplify -4/8, it becomes a fraction of -1/2. -4, +8. And you all know that the slope of this is 0, but here's why. How much would I rise to get from here to here? Well, I would rise 0, wouldn't I? And then I can run all I want. So what's 0 divided by any number? Let's check it with our calculator. 0 divided by any number. I just randomly picked 5. Is 0. 0 divided by -2. 0. 0 divided by anything except 0 is going to be 0. So that's why this slope is 0. Okay, on your homework, you're going to be drawing right triangles, you're going to be doing rise over run, and you're going to fully simplify. Thank you very much. You may work on either the homework, 2.2a, or you have a new ALEKS goal, 20 topics by next week. It's on my calendar, and it will be in Aries. So You can either do this, which is due next class, or you can work on ALEKS since I have Chromebooks at the back for you. Please behave. Thank you.